Hello, this is Ian Todd, and first I just want to say congratulations and well done with learning, memorizing, and executing the 7 steps of our methodology. Now it's time to take you to the next level. We're going to teach you our objection management. Nearly all the prospects we speak to have some reason why they have not replaced their windows. Referring to the first commitment of need will help solidify your responses to most objections. Many prospects agree they have problems with their windows and doors, but will also have an excuse as to why they feel the need to procrastinate doing anything about their problems. Therefore, understanding how to respond to their setbacks is pivotal for your success in following the methodology and setting up appointments. Do not assume objections are negative or obstacles. That false belief will affect your response. Sound convincing without appearing vague, evasive, or condescending. And don't say more than what we recommend. Stick to the word tracks. This is a common conversation path with objections. As you can see, we don't know when they're going to happen or which ones we're going to get. Let's revisit understanding the marketing methodology and the 7 steps to setting a sound appointment. Steps are progressions of the word tracks we use in order to move the timing and direction of the conversations we have with homeowners. Commitments are a sense of agreements and obligation you have attained from homeowners. If all 7 are not followed, the appointment loses its legitimacy and the likelihood of the appointment confirming and issuing decreases dramatically. So we taught you all 7 steps, and you should have these titles memorized. How fast can you recite them? It should be pretty quick. Great first impression, commitment to need, commitment to agenda, the commitment to terms, commitment to scheduling now, the dance, and a great last impression. If you don't know it that quickly, you need to memorize it fast enough because these conversations go fast out there. Now let's cover the ARC process. Every rebuttal you attempt should have a 3-step process: acknowledge, rebuttal, close. So let's start with the first one, the acknowledgement. Prospects feel more at ease and will tend to continue a conversation when you have acknowledged and empathized their concerns or personal situations. Remember, no one cares how much you know until they know how much you care. So if you didn't acknowledge at all, it would sound like an argument. Let's say they say, I have no money. And you didn't say anything about that except, oh, well, we have a great promotion. Oh, we can get past that. Sure, it could work. But now they smell that sales breath on you. So really what we want to do is acknowledge what they're saying. It could be simple as far as when they show a little bit of frustration or tension. Doesn't mean they're angry. It's just a setback. So you could say, example 1, sorry to hear that. Or example 2, hey, you're not the first person to tell me that, and I'm sure you won't be the last. Or example 3, I hear what you're saying, and then move on to the rebuttal. But at least they feel heard. Now you can take the acknowledgement to the next level and ask an open-ended question. This shows that you're a good enough listener and care enough to follow up with more specific questions about their setbacks. And you can also develop some rapport. You'll gain more information and the ability to use the correct response. An example of this would be, hey, I don't have any money, from the homeowner. You could ask them an open-ended question as like, oh, you don't have any money because times are tight or because you have other home improvements. There's a lot different of an answer if they say times are tight versus, yeah, we'd rather do the deck first before windows. Okay, well, maybe they're making money, but they're choosing to spend it in a different place right now. That's a different rebuttal. So once you've either apologized or more empathized their setback, maybe asked an open-ended question or two, you could use a setup phrase to build up to the rebuttal, as simply as, well, let me set you at ease. Or, oh, I apologize. Maybe I didn't say this, or I didn't get to say this yet, but then we move on to the rebuttal. So, as far as the rebuttal goes, typically, most homeowners don't realize that there's actually a solution to what's holding them back from replacing their windows or doors. So, knowing the correct answer will make you the expert and help them reconsider. Now, verbatim word tracks will avoid rambling, shortening, or searching for words. We highly recommend learning the word tracks, memorizing them, so you can just look them in the eye and execute. So that leaves us with the close. ABC, always be closing, right? So always assume that your answer from the rebuttal makes sense to the homeowner and move on. So there's 3 ways you could consider closing: with a confirmation close, a pivot close, or a lockdown close. Starting with the confirmation close, it's a simple confirmation of their understanding and agreement. Again, assuming that whatever you said makes sense. So speak with conviction when you deliver a confirmation close. And it could be simply, fair enough? Does that make sense? Sound good? Really listen for your tone of voice. You don't want to have an inflection go up. Fair enough? Does that make sense? Does that sound good? You don't sound like you're really sure about the answer. So make sure you hit it hard and it's a quick jab and you're straight to the point. Fair enough? That makes sense? Sound good? Also, it helps to nod your head when you say this too. So fair enough? Sound good? Makes sense? You with me? Great. Just make sure you don't ask them, so is that something you would be interested in? That's a close-ended offer and is the easiest way for a homeowner to say no. Once you get that confirmation close, quickly move to a pivot or a lockdown close. So what is a pivot close? Well, it's transitioning to the next step. That's why it's so important to have these 7 steps memorized. They'll throw curveballs to you. I don't have money. I'm not ready. I need to talk to my spouse. Can I get a business card? There's a number of major and basic and even nuance objections that you're going to hear. You're going to have to answer them. And once you do, you don't want to lose your place. You want to be the one controlling the timing and the direction and the flow of this conversation. So pivot back to the step you're on or to the next step. But do not linger on a response by just rambling. Now, you may have the silver tongue and everything you say sounds great, but if you start rambling on, guess what you're going to sound like? Yeah, you're going to sound like a salesman. And then also, the other way is do not leave a silent pause for them to respond. I know you might have heard whoever speaks first loses, but that's not the case here. We want to control the timing and the direction. Say your piece. Make sure that you assume that they're with you and on board and just move on. If they have a problem with the rebuttal that you just answered, they'll let you know. But if you're past that, good chance they're going to get past it too. And finally, the lockdown close. The lockdown suggest a time and date that we can lock down or offer that would work well for them. You typically shouldn't use this form of closing unless you've obtained all 5 commitments. The need, the agenda, the terms of them agreeing to 60 to 90 minutes and having all the parties there, and to schedule this appointment right now. If you don't have all 5 of those, locking down could basically just result in them not understanding what exactly they're scheduling an appointment for. So, but if you're further enough along in the conversation and they have a holistic view of what we're offering and what we ask for in return, a simple way of doing a lockdown close is do weekdays or weekends work best for you. Another way you can say it is, hey, we can come out 7 days a week, morning, afternoon, and evening. I'm sure we can find a time that will work best for you and whoever else. Great. So we just broke down the ARC process. And now we're going to fit it in with our 7-step methodology. So ideally, you would get the laydown and you knock on their door, you make a great first impression, and they say, yeah, I'll take a price. And you move on to the pain conversation. Yeah, I have all these problems. They're not giving any pushback. So then you move down this channel and explain the agenda, how we're going to look at their windows inside and out and give them a price that's good for a year, the value of that visit. They say, sure, yes, sign me up, sounds great. And then you move down to the commitment to terms. No problems with that. We're scheduling now, doing the dance, and great last impression. That would be ideal. But in reality, you might get one of those every month if you're lucky. So we need to fit in the ARC process with the 7 steps. We also don't know what rebuttals they're going to give us and when they're going to give it to us. However, the more you do this, you actually will have an idea of when certain rebuttals come. So when do they come? Well, usually it's right at the beginning, right when you're introducing yourself. Hi, my name's Ian Todd. I hope you're Mrs. Jones. Hey, Mrs. Jones. And you go through it and you say, I'd like to get you a price. And that's where they say, not interested, no thanks. So first rebuttal, out the gates. We know that. That's the apathy. So this channel closes and we can't go on to step 2. So let's acknowledge the fact that they're not interested. I didn't plan on catching you the day that you're ready to replace your windows before I leave. And now we're moving on to step 2. That's the pivot. We're getting back on track. Those look like aluminum windows, and this house was built in 1995, so you have 30-year-old expired windows. And now we're going back into our pain conversation, tying in the homeowners, educating them on the problems, and finding out where in the house they have it worse, all the things. Now, that could be all you need, and then you're on to step 3. Or they might ask you, what's the price? Oh, we got an objection, a rebuttal right there. So we got to hold on real tight. The channel is closed. And let's acknowledge, what's the price? Well, I'm glad you asked. You could also use something different. Hey, yeah, you're not the first person to ask me that question. I'm sure you won't be the last. Whatever you want to use. But here's the rebuttal. It's verbatim. The price of any Reno Banderson window depends on the make, model, color, size, and quantity. It also depends on the composition and condition of the window frames. And then you could pivot back to step 3 or step 2. Maybe you're not too deep in the pain conversation yet, so you can say, what rooms would you want to price out first? And then you're talking about the bedrooms or the living rooms, and you're still in that pain conversation. Maybe you're a little bit past that, and you're saying it depends on all these things, so may I make a suggestion in removing a step 3? One of my project consultants can come out, take a look at your windows inside and out, and then they go over what you want. And now we're kind of explaining all the differences of how it depends on the price. And then you finish your measurements, price is good for a year, and you're hoping they say yes, but they might say, I'm not ready for that. Channel closed. We can't get to the terms yet. So we acknowledge, rebuttal, close. Maybe we can use this acknowledgement as an open-ended question this time. So, not ready. Do you mean like right now or a year from now? Do you have other projects? Kind of asking them, help me get the correct response by asking the right acknowledgement, open-ended questions. Oh, I have a rebuttal for that. And now that I know why you're not ready for that, and I've given you my response, I'm just going to move on to, we just asked for 2 things, 60, 90 minutes, whether we need it or not. Fair enough. And maybe they're good with that one. And then you go to the next term. Great. And the other thing we asked for is to meet with all decision makers. Besides yourself, that's typically a spouse, friend, family member. Who would that be for you? Maybe they stop you. And they give you a 2-part rebuttal. And the channel has closed. Well, now we have to move over here. Acknowledge rebuttal. And here's an example of a lockdown. We're kind of far. We're 1, 2, 3, 4 steps into it. Maybe the lockdown close might make more sense now. But going back to the acknowledgement, we appreciate exactly how pressed for time you are. Let me assure you that discussing this with both of you together will actually use much less time, and it'll eliminate a lot of misunderstandings. So without hesitation, remember, you want to assume your answers make sense. So lock it down. Let's make sure we have all your information correct. I have your name here as, I guess I'll have to make up what Mrs. Jones' first name is. I have you as Mary Jones. And what was your husband's name? Okay, Bill. Great. And then what was your phone number? And then you're moving on. Sometimes we get too caught up in the rebuttal and we start to ramble, or we have that deathly silent pause where they think about it and they think about, no, I think I'd rather wait. Instead, just assume it makes sense, say your rebuttal, look them in the eye, and then just move on to the next step. Chances are, since you're so confident and assertive, and you had good pace and cadence, they're just going to, in this case, start helping you fill up the iPad and start scheduling the information now. So once you get their information and you get their signature on the iPad, you just say, hey, I'm going to call in my scheduling department and wrap this up. And they say, well, you have my information. Can you call me back later? Closing that channel again. So we acknowledge rebuttal. And here's another lockdown. So we're on the home stretch. This will only take 2 more minutes. In order for me to complete my end of the job, I just need to ensure that the information has been received correctly into our schedule center. I also need to find a time so I can validate this VIP card. And with your phone in your hand, again, this only just takes 2 minutes. You're dialing. Now, they may have a problem, go, hold on. I seriously, I don't want to do this now. All right, hang up the phone and go into another, if they persist, rebuttal. But most of the time, homeowners will just go with it if you're assertive and you just make it make sense. Okay, now that you've seen how the ARC process works and how it fits in with the 7-step methodology, it's time to learn these major objections. So learn them, memorize them, rehearse them, and then we'll role play steps 1 through 7 with giving some of these major objections and coach you on how to do it.